Hello and welcome back. This is another fifth grade math video. And in this video, our focus is going to be on something called least common denominator. Okay, so least common denominator is a concept we use when we're dealing with fractions. What it is we want to rewrite two fractions so that they have the same denominator or bottom number and the smallest possible number on the bottom that they could share. Or that they could have in common. So let me explain. Least means smallest, and then common means same. Denominator is the bottom of a number or a bottom of a fraction. So the smallest, same bottom of the bottom of the fraction. So let's try this. Let's do 3 over 10 and 5 over 9. So they want us to rewrite this so that both the bottom numbers are the same, but the smallest possible number they could be and still be the same. So a lot of times the easiest thing to do is to multiply them together. That won't always work if you're looking for the least common denominator, but most of the time it will. So since I can't multiply 9 times something to get 10, my plan B is to multiply them by each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by multiplying this times 9 and this times 10. What that will do is that will give me a common denominator down here of 90. So for both fractions, the denominator will now be 90. But to make the fractions equivalent to their original fractions, I have to do the same thing to the top that I did to the bottom. So for this fraction, I need to multiply it by 9, and this fraction, I need to multiply it by 10. So 3 times 9 is 27, and 5 times 10, or sorry, 3 times 9 is 27, 5 times 9 is 50. So if I need to rewrite these fractions so that they have the same denominator on the bottom, they're equivalent to their original fractions, and then the denominators are as small as they could possibly be, this is what I would have. I'd have 27 over 90 and 50 over 90. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I have to do this? Right? Why would I have to do this in fraction work? This is something that we'll have to do when we're adding and subtracting two fractions that have different denominators. So that's why we practice this. Okay, here is our next one. We're going to write the least common denominator or rewrite the two fractions for 4 over 5 and 11 over 20. So the one thing that we probably want to do is we want to first we want to see if the smaller denominator fits into the bigger one using multiplication. So I want to ask myself, can I multiply 5 times something and get 20? And the answer is yes, I can. I can multiply that by 4, and that would give me 20. So that means the least common denominator for these two fractions would be 20. To keep the two fractions equivalent, I have to do the same thing to the bottom that I did to the top. So on the first fraction, I multiplied the bottom by 4 to get 20, which means I would have to multiply the top by 4 to make it equivalent. I don't have to do anything to the second fraction. It was already over 20. So 4 times 4 is 16, and 5 times 4 is 20. And then, like I said, 11 over 20 did not need to change. So the two equivalent fractions that have the same denominator for these two would be 16 over 20 and 11 over 20. Okay, here are my next two fractions. It's 1/3 and 1/2. So I need to rewrite them. I'm going to start by looking at the smaller denominator, which is 2, to see if I can multiply that by something to get 3. So 2 times what would give me 3? And the answer is it wouldn't. I'd have to do a decimal or a mixed number. And so we want to stick to just whole numbers. So the second choice is to multiply them by each other. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this times 2 and this times 3. What that will do is that will give me a common denominator on the bottom of 6 for both fractions. Now, whatever I did to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 will be times 2, and this one will be times 3. Well, 1 times 2 is 2, so that gets over there, and 1 times 3 is 3. So that means that I rewrote these fractions into 2 over 6 and 3 over 6. Okay, here are my next two fractions. I'm going to take the fractions 1 over 10 and 2 over 3, and I'm going to rewrite them so that they have the same denominator on the bottom, but they are equivalent to these two fractions. So first thing I want to check is if I can multiply 3 times something to get 10. So I always recommend taking the smaller one, seeing if you can multiply it to get the larger one. In this case, I can't. There's nothing I can multiply 3 times to get 10. So my second choice would be to multiply them by each other. So this is going to be times 10, and this is going to be times 3. What that will do is will give me a common denominator for both of them of 30. Now, whatever I did to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So that means this gets multiplied by 3, and this gets multiplied by 10. 1 times 3 is 3, so that'll be the numerator for this fraction, and 2 times 10 is 20. So the two fractions rewritten so that they have the same denominator are 3 over 30 and 20 over 30. Okay, here is our last example for today's video. We're going to take the fraction 1 over 4 and the other fraction of 2 over 9 and rewrite them so that they're equivalent to these two fractions but have the same denominator. So first I need to look at 4 to see if I can multiply it to get 9. The answer is no, I can't, because 4 times 2 would be 8, 4 times 3 would be 12, no 9 there. So I'm going to have to multiply them by each other. So I'm going to multiply this one by 9 and this one by 4. Now, whatever I did to the bottom, I also have to do to the top. So that means this will be multiplied by 9 and this will be multiplied by 4. 1 times 9 is 9. 4 times 9 is 36. 2 times 4 is 8. And 9 times 4 is 36. So the two fractions rewritten so that they have the same denominator are 9 over 36 and 8 over 36. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I hope to see you in another video soon.